All right, we're here in the shop. It's a little echoey, but as promised, we're going to start on this 2001, I believe, Polaris Sportsman 500 HO, four-wheel drive. It's got worn out front control arm bushings. We got some parts and pieces here, and I'm going to show you how I change them out. This is how we do it. Alright, your front wheel is going to have four 14 millimeter lug nuts. Just zip those off and you'll be able to see what we're doing. Okay, with the tire out of the way, you can see from this angle, this is where the bushing was at. I'll show you that wiggle a little better. So the easiest way I found to get these off is there's a 14 millimeter bolt here. It goes through the bearing over to the other side. If you'll take the other side off first, and then you'll pry it out of its position and put the bolt back in it, tighten it up, then you'll be able to loosen this side and get it out. I'll show you what it looks like once I get it loose. You can see the movement now. Bushings are completely sharp. So if you're riding and you feel the, I felt it mainly when I put on my front brakes. Everything would kind of shift forward or shift back whenever you put on your front brakes or take off. There's a big clunk sound, very recognizable. If you have it, you'll know. Okay, if you push up on it with something, that bearing will fall out of the way, or that washer. And you can get your bolt back in the hole here. Then you can tighten it up and you'll be able to go on the other side and loosen that side. Otherwise, when you loosen one and you try to loosen the other one, the whole shaft in the center just spins and you're fighting yourself the whole time. Now that that's tight, you can put a wrench on this side and try to get that side loose with a socket. Alright, I've got my wrench on this side over here. Got the camera moved to this side. And there it goes. There we go. Now you should be able to maneuver that lower control arm out of its home. Swing it around here. Alright, I've got this swung around here where we can see it. This is the pivot point of your lower control arm. And this is the shaft that goes through there. It works as a bearing. It just slides straight out. And there's your bolt that we took out and replaced, and then your other bolt goes on the other end. It's just a straight rod through there, so whenever you was trying to loosen this side, once it got loose and you tried to loosen this side, there was nothing to hold this side. So if you'll do it the way we done just now, it should come right apart. Now I'm going to take this and clean up this old grease. Looks like they had plenty of grease in there, kind of mixed with mud, but we're going to put some marine grade grease in there when we're done. And the Zerk fitting, be sure to grease these regularly. This is probably broken down plastic mixed with some grease and some mud and all kinds of goodness. Let me get these cleaned up and we'll show you how to put these back together. Okay, show you a little trick. I've got a long 3/8 drive extension. And I took a old shop towel and trying to get all the grease out here. You can put it over the end of your shop towel, like so. It just fits inside here. You can kind of push out all that old grease and muck and mud, and that way we can start with fresh. I usually take and run it through there a couple of times. It's never going to come out completely clean unless you use some kind of solvent, but if you get most of the gunk out of there, you should be fine. Okay, there's your shaft and the bushings. If you can notice, this was supposed to be in there. There was not one sign of any bushing left on this thing, so it was fairly beaten up. The kit comes with these new spacers. We chose a couple of companies to try to work with on this one. This front bushing kit come from Race Driven, really good prices, and we're going to see. We've tried their bushings on several other bikes and it seems to do pretty good. So these bushings slide over here and you put your shaft in there. This slides perfectly on. Test fit it, make sure everything fits snug. And before I do a final assembly, I like to take a little grease just to get these started with grease, and everything will go together nicely. Alright, before we get these put together, I got some marine grade grease. That's what I like to use on anything that's going to be in mud or underwater at any point. So I usually just pump a little bit out here. Give it I'm going to call this the axle because it's a pivot point. Just wipe everything down just to give it some lubrication to start with. And your spacer goes on there. Make sure to put your spacer on. Then we'll just take and give it a little persuasion. Make sure that your inner shaft comes flush on the outside of both of them, and you'll be set. Up here, where it mounts, where your control arm mounts, I got this little scraper. There's a bunch of years of grease and broken up plastic that I pile up in here. Swinging this around, you may have to do some maneuvering to get that plastic guard up in there, but everything should fall right back into place. Just like so. And you just got to get your bolts back in. This bolt goes here, this bolt goes here. Tighten them up, then we'll throw some grease in there and put the wheel back on. Move to the other side. You're done with this. Alright guys, if you can see back in there, right here, the grease is coming out both sides. So, filled the whole tube up, and now I just need to put the wheel on. And guess what guys, it's time to go play in the mud, because this thing's got a brand new front end under it.